and the training process was a joke. I raise the hands. How many people? Okay, so a majority of people in the room have. So this is the issue that Stratton Van Til currently suffers from, because the pay is very low and the training process sucks. So in more detail, the wage is about $7.45 to $7.65, and federal minimum wage is at $7.25. So that's very, close to that. So it's not very better than minimum. So, you look at other jobs that everyone in the room has, or they're making at or more currently. So that needs to be changed. I've been employed at my store for about 4.5 years, and I'm currently making $9. So that doesn't really equate to the time and effort that I've been there. I've been told I'm a great worker and all that. Another example is a former coworker named Joe, actually quit about a year ago, and he went to go work at a steel industry, but he didn't like the job, so about after 4 months he quit, came back, and he's like, you know what, it just wasn't working out. And he wanted to come back to Strags and just try to find a job in the meantime, so he was working there. But for the pay, they started him at the very bottom of the pay scale. And he was there for 9 years prior. So think about all that time he invested in that store, and then they put him right down back at the totem pole. That's not very attractive to an employee that was a very good worker and knows the store better than I did. So that's a very bad case where the pay scale needs to be adjusted. The second issue is the training process. So for about a year and a half, we actually were doing a training process where pretty much we would hire the person, they would get 1 day of training to 3. I'm not joking. They get 1 to 3 days of training, and then you go at it. So if you're a new employee and you get thrown into that work situation for a grocery store, you're kind of like, okay, I don't know where to find this. Okay, am I doing this right? Am I doing what they're telling me to do right? You're getting no feedback. You're not being told where anything is. You're being misdirected, so you get very frustrated, and it can be very stressful for yourself at the time. So how do we fix that? Well, we implement a better pay scale, and we do a longer training process. So the wage scale, we actually are part of a union, so we're a part of Union 881, and this means we get benefits and etc. because a union, you pay them, they do your contracting, so pretty much we sign a contract every, let's say, 4 or 5 years that we get. So how we can adjust, we would have to adjust it for everyone. So people that have been in the company for about, let's say, 15 to 20 years, they would have to have their pay adjusted to be compensated for the time they put in, and for the new employees that are going to be in the future if they do join the company. So here's a simple chart that I made. The current pay scale is depending on your department, so utility stocker, utility clerk, cashier, and they're about $765, $745, $765. And the proposal is to go to about $790 for the cashier and stocker, because they're actually almost very similar in aspects, and they actually have the same pay scale on the contract. And about $755 or possibly a little bit higher for utility clerk, because they actually do get tips, so this will be better. And since, like I mentioned before, we are union, we get raises every 6 months to a year, so we get 2 raises a year. So by increasing the pay for the starting base pay, instead of having a very slow progressive pay scale, we could have a better one by implementing a higher pay cap. So instead of slowly working up year after year, we go up faster, and this is more attractive to a new employee, because now after their first year, let's say $7.90, now they're up another 20 cents, they're almost at $8.10. So that's very attractive for a new employee, because they're like, hey, I put a year in, and we've actually had a very high turnover, because as I said before, the 1 day training, that's very not appealing to a new employee. We've actually had many walkouts because of that. We had one lady that my old coworker Ian was training, and she left, didn't call, didn't say nothing, the next day just was gone. So the training schedule, like I said, it was 1 to 3 days. I think solid 7 days of training. So how many days you work that week? Let's say you work 3 or 4 days that week, because they mainly do about that for new employees. Depending on your position, you can do, I work in stocking, so I do about 5 tasks. I do frozen, dairy, grocery, cashiering, bagging, and whatever else they want me to do, because I've been there so long, so I almost know everything at my store. So depending on the day, let's say I do frozen 1 day, grocery, at least do each task twice over that week and a half span, because that way I have a better understanding of the store or the job that I'm doing. So if I work in dairy once, depending on what I'm doing, it changes throughout the day. So it's not very beneficial for me, because I don't know if I'm doing the job right now, or if there's something I forgot to do and I don't know how to go about it. Other positions like the clerk and cashiering, they're pretty straightforward. Bagging, if you kind of don't understand that, but they have other jobs that they have to do as well. So we can actually I made this kind of just saying cleaning, packing, because instead of just doing straightforward one thing, they can learn different tasks that they have to do. And for cashiering, possibly even teach them how to do service center, so that way they have a better skill. That way the employee feels they just came in, they're more valued now, because they think that, oh, I'm getting a higher position, role, so they feel more like, oh, they really do want me here. So I think at least a 7-day training process would be better than what we currently are doing, because it would be more beneficial. So the pros and cons are, a longer training process gives them more comfort at the workplace. They'll find the majority of the items. The pay will give them, better, warm feeling, because they feel like they're being paid well than what minimum currently is. And we grow in numbers and reputations, because if you look at some websites or forums, we actually have very poor reviews for former employees and current ones, because they just think the company, for, I believe these two standings are very poor. The cons are, you could still have turnovers, because there are some people that just go into the job and they aren't happy. Because I worked for a job last spring, and I left because the pay was about what I'm making now. So it's like, what was the point of leaving one job when I have to drive farther now? And I just didn't feel comfortable working at that workplace. And of course, the cost is going to go up because you're raising the pay now. But I believe that this is the call to action that Strax needs to take in order to be more beneficial, be more reputable, and grow in numbers. I'd like to thank you for your time, and any questions or comments?
The comment does apply.